forgot to run the right one. All right. Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome back. That was fun. And my title's not functioning right now, so let me go ahead and get my title working, and then I'll go ahead and unmute everybody. They're all here. You just can't hear them because we're all muted. How's everybody doing today? Let me unmute you guys, and we're set. Greetings. How's it going, guys? We are not going to talk about that thing which shall not be named today. We are going to be like, let's take a break from the insanity. We're going to talk about Linux and FOSS. And I did change the title on our banner here to FOSS instead of Linux every day because I kind of want to say a good thing when we're jumping into FOSS software is you don't need to abandon your current systems. And for a good example of that, a friend of mine sent me this Mac, which was their brother's, who had passed away, and so sent it to me, and I basically just took it, and it was running Maverick OS when I got it. Yeah. And so I ended up taking that and putting Sierra on it so that I can have pretty close to the latest version of Mac for testing purposes and things, but I'm not buying software for the Mac. Everything I need to do, there's free and open source versions. So that's the best thing you can do to start with is you start with where you are and then you learn how to do it. And then if you already have the understanding about how the free and open source software works, jumping to Linux is just simple. I mean, it's just like it's like a bonus. It's like getting laid off, getting a 3-month a 3-month severance package, or then getting another job the next week. That's called 3 months of bonus pay, people. Because it's like now you just get to pick what environment you want to work with. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about that thing which shall not be named because I know I'm sick of hearing about it. I know the rest of you guys are probably sick of hearing about it. And so we just want to go ahead and just have a good time, chat about Linuxy, FOSSy type stuff, and do that. So how's everybody doing? How's it going, Dan? What's going on your way?
Everything's going fairly well.
All right.
Just enjoying my FOSS.
There you go. That's what I'm doing too. Quint, what's going on your way?
It's pretty much the same, except we are doing remote classes now. I don't go to school anymore.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, he's a dropout. No.
Whole
America,
all of
America are dropouts anyway. But yeah, doing class online. Hey, the good thing is you're still getting your learning done, so you should finish right about the same time. Tech, what's going on your way?
Sorry, I hadn't had a chance to check my mic. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. I am teleworking starting tomorrow, so I can actually moderate the chat all day.
I have been teleworking for 10 years.
Yeah, we know. You've been bragging about it for 10 years, too.
There was that stint where I was working for the software sales company. About once a year, they'd send me out to several universities. And so I got it. It was kind of like paid vacation, really. I mean, I got a chance to go around. They're literally one day, I'm like going through Tennessee, and they're like, hey, let's just pick up a bunch of donuts and stuff for the next conference. Like, all right. Sounds good to me. Gotta swing by, pick up the donuts. Yeah, donuts. I got free donuts too. It was good. Yeah, world, what's going on your way? World, what's going on in your world?
yeah. So I'm just running Mac OS, Linux, and essentially lots of Unix-based systems right now.
Good.
Which, honestly, I think I should actually be changing my name from World of Linux to World of Unix because it seems that I'm kind of using just a lot of Unix and not just Linux by itself. But, yeah, just doing that multi-platform stuff.
Very good. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, while Linux is my primary, I mean, I do have other computers. I'm like, oh, I want to have a Mac. Well, I've actually had a Mac. I mean, I do have a Mac Mini, which is on Yosemite. Maybe I might actually try and upgrade that. I even noticed this thing here is even I think it's a 2012 MacBook Air, 2012, 2013 MacBook Air. What's that?
Go to About This Mac.
All right.
It'll tell you. I can show you how to find out what type of ports there. I'm pretty sure they're USB.
So,
but I can verify for you.
It's 2015. It's USB 3.
Yeah, it's not 2015.
I thought it was. I'm thinking about. I was having a conversation with somebody else about their Mac. That's 2015.
Okay, under overview, where am I going to go from there? Oh, early 2014. It says early 2014, 13-inch MacBook Air. So, I mean, even with Sierra on this, it runs just fine. So it's not like it doesn't feel like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old computer. Of course, I think that's actually the same age that my MacBook Mini is. I think that one might be 2015 or 16, but I don't know.
I mean, Apple does a pretty good job of making sure their older computers run smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can give them credit for that, but I run all these different operating systems so that when I'm doing web design for people, like for example, we just changed a lot of things in a bookstore listing on a nonprofit I'm using, and they're using Mac, and of course I'm using a variety of different things, and she's like, it's just not working right on Safari. Boot this guy right up, give her a screenshot what it looks like on Safari, and she's we're having an issue with the her CSS sheet is not updating from the cache, so we had her try and spam the Command R key, which should force refresh it. I'm wondering if she was just doing it like one at a time or something. I was like, literally a whole lot of times, really, really fast, you'll force refresh the cache, but for some reason it's not doing that. I don't know why.
10,000 times in 1 second, as close as you can get.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you have a minigun, hold it, put the minigun on that R key.
Yeah. So even the old 2012 MacBook Airs can still have the latest version of Mac OS because I do repair computers with my dad. So we had the MacBook Air from 2012 that had that folder icon that had a question mark on it. So anyways, since I had a Time Machine backup, I was just able to plug it from my backups and just put inside, and then it just installed macOS Catalina on it and stuff. And it worked really well for like an old 2012 computer, which I was actually impressed.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that the FOSS apps are not going to be as available yet. They'll get there. It's just I'm not sure. Tech, maybe you can speak to that. I'm not sure if you can or not. Having been working for Apple in the past, can you speak to our what's going on with the 32-bit on Macintosh and things like that?
It's dead.
It's dead. All right. So is all hope gone, or is our FOSS software coming back sometimes?
Yep. I mean, it's gonna be up to the open source community and the hacker community to get 32-bit compatibility to work on the OS going
or just
forward.
make sure that the FOSS software doesn't need it. One or the other.
Yeah. Sure.
And most software's there, honestly.
I'd say. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look into it, I guess, a little bit more. I was under the impression that anything that's 32-bit's not going to run, but I'm sure that there's ways to work around that. I know definitely nothing from Apple has been 32-bit for, like 10 years. Since you've been working at home, teleworking your whole life.
Yeah. I don't know.
Tom, have you also considered just creating a macOS virtual machine in VirtualBox to run your stuff?
I could have done that with the download here, I think, but I mean, I really haven't considered it because I'd rather have native hardware if possible. So, I might even want to get an extra hard drive. Since this main computer here runs IC I might actually want to go ahead and just get literally just go ahead and get a hard drive just to install Windows 10 on it, just to have it for development testing purposes. Not that I would actually want to do anything with it really, but having it would not be bad in my line of work. So
that's kind of what I got a drive. It's similar to this. This is a front load caddy that goes right in the front of my machine. Yep. It's got a Crucial SSD on it. I got another Crucial SSD. It's got Windows 10 on it. All I need to do is shut the computer down, stuff it in, start it back up, and hit the F8 key when it boots and select which operating system that I want to go into.
Let me say hello to everybody who's on the chat, and then we'll kind of start in on the first question we're going to ask, so you guys can think of your answer. Is what do you use your FOSS software for? As we go on. But let's go ahead and say hi to everybody, then we'll jump into that. So somebody can remind me of that question later because I'll forget. All right, let's see. So Moonbase Alpha Grays, greetings. And Room 2 is there. Hello, Room 2. Hello. Forgot to add the click. All right. Robocop right leg monitor stands. Wait, what? What? Robocox? Okay. Anyway, most of the games on Linux run Proton. There you go. Let's see. Michelangelo. By the way, I do love your work, Michelangelo. Let's see. Fastest guitarist in the West, in the North, and, never heard of those bands, but cool. All right. Badio is a monster? I don't know. I don't know what y'all guys are talking about. There you go. There's some Zeppelin. I know what you're talking about there. I'm a boomer.
Zeppler.
That's right.
Hey, that's good.
Let's see. Luigi's on. Greetings. At least we all get a little bit of spare time for some hobbies now. There you go. That's right. My concern, I don't want to get into all that topic, but my biggest concern is people are going to waste more time than they're going to be productive with this whole thing. And that's kind of here's my challenge for you. Instead of binge watching 37 episodes of something on Netflix, figure out how to do something. Here's the thing. Sorry, tech. I'm telling you, just download a Linux operating system, throw it on a USB drive, see how to get it to work. And while you're binging, figure out how it works and figure out how some FOSS software works. I mean, really. You see, you can still binge. Just do something productive while you're at it. All right? So, yes, hobbies are good.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been starting to binge when I discovered that there's now an official Netflix Kodi add-on.
Oh, is there now?
Yeah.
Really?
It's not in the Kodi. It's not really official. It's not in the Kodi repositories. But if you look on the Kodi forums, if you have a Netflix account and you install this, you can watch Netflix on Kodi, and it works great.
That might actually be worth going to a Walmart or something and buying a Netflix gift card just to sample it and see how it works. I think that'd be good.
It runs just fine on Firefox.
Mm-hmm. Well, I use Kodi on my TV to watch movies and things like that. So
I use Firefox on my TV as well.
Oh,
but I also have a Roku cube, which kind of works for that as well.
Yeah. I don't have one of those. So. Dorco says I should trade the Mac for some toilet paper. I stocked up on toilet paper before all y'all guys came and bought it all. So
I had it before I realized it was a real special commodity.
Yeah, I wish now I would have bought more. I put that up there. I'm still thinking about doing I
could have eBayed a few rolls.
That's right. Can old eBay Macs be turned into Linux machines? eBay Macs. What is an eBay Macs? Anybody know on that? I don't know. I have no idea what that is.
I don't either.
eBay Max? Is that a mistype?
eBay Max may be a Macintosh from eBay.
Oh, eBay. Okay, eBay Mac be turned into a Linux machines like a Mac. Since there's a lot of functionality inside of the Linux world, my guess is probably pretty much. Let's see. There's some Fedora stuff. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I think I might have to go ahead and spin out a few more videos here, right? Compete with all the YouTube algorithms and stuff. Get in on all this. So maybe I'll do a Fedora video soon. I'll release a Fedora video in the morning and then news in the evening. I'll be like, I'm just not going to sleep. How's that? Push out videos.
I'm running Fedora server for my Nextcloud, and it is rock solid on that like $200 Walmart laptop. Stellar.
Yeah.
I haven't considered running Fedora server because it's Fedora. I've always ran CentOS if I wanted to run an RPM based.
Yeah, if I need to manage a server SSHN, I usually use a Debian server just because I'm most familiar with Debian. I don't know how to manage CentOS from a terminal.
I know how to do both Debian and CentOS. So I use it. Depends on what the application is.
Correct. That's always a true thing. Of course, the one thing I use my Debian server for is my EC2 cloud is where I have my Calibora, so I can turn my Nextcloud into a Google Docs. That actually, the Calibora now has a .deb package, so the deb server. Otherwise, you're messing with Docker, and Docker can have some positives, but there are a whole lot of problems. I had more issues setting up Calibora through Docker, but when I came down to installing it with Deb done, it's done. I mean, it's amazingly simple now.
My mail server is in Docker on CentOS, and it does have some issues. I occasionally have to. Every 6 months, it breaks. Like something breaks, and I have to fix it. At least every 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I just have a Debian server running Nextcloud and a few other things just in the back. It's been constantly running on a UPS, like a battery backup, for many months now. I never turned it off ever. It still runs. So, yeah, Linux is pretty stable for servers. Like one of the best operating systems for that.
Easily.
I remember I
Yeah.
saw a
Greetings,
meme
Vince.
that was it was the last time I rebooted my Linux server. Let me think. I think it was 10 years ago. It was something like that. If you look it up, you can find
Yeah.
it.
I'm just amazed somebody lived in one place for 10 years.
Yeah, I'm going on. I think I've been in this place for 2, maybe. Can't remember. I was in the previous place for 2 years. I was in the previous place before that for, I think, just 2 years.
I've lived here for maybe 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. And my house before this, which is only like a mile from here, I lived there for pretty much my entire life till 4 years ago. So we lived there for like 12 years, I guess.
I've been here for 7.
Instead of binge anime. What? We need to talk about binge watching is awesome. I mean, that's okay. You can binge watch. Just do something else. Don't sit there binge watching on the couch, turning into a zombie. Do something when you binge watch. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, you know, here's how I do it. I'd install a distro, open up Firefox, log into Netflix in front of my computer, and I'm FOSSing while I'm binging.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you
usually.
go. Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to test that out because I do use a Kodi box, a Raspberry
Just see, I
Pi
put the
running
link
Kodi.
in there. That's a Kodi forum link. There's installation instructions on the first post there. It's like a GitHub link.
What's a Cody's version up to now? I
18.5.
Oh,
I think I got
18.5?
8.1 on the TV computer, but I use it so rarely.
18. I'm going to boot up my Arch Kodi, see what it says. I mean, I've updated the Arch computer sometime in the last week. Oh, no,
on
you're wrong.
Fedora
You're wrong,
here.
Quint. You're wrong. It's 18.6.
Mine on Fedora is 18.5.
I got Arch. I can tell you the latest package of anything.
I actually, Fedora's a little behind because I got a notification that
Yeah.
I remember now I got a notification that 18.6 was the latest, but then I ran a DNF update Kodi and it said the 18.5 was the latest. They just haven't packaged it yet.
Yeah. Fedora is slightly behind. All right, we're going to pause our comments there, and we will turn our questions around. So, Dan, what FOSS software do you use, and what do you do with it?
I would say my computer, I use it for absolutely everything. I got 3 web browsers in it, and all of them have different purposes. The Vivaldi I use for hangouts like this. The WaterFox I use for casual browsing and watching YouTube videos. The Firefox is streaming only because it's the only browser I got that has a working Widevine codecs DMR decryptor that works.
Yep.
But communication's a big part of my machine. I have Discord in it that I'm on regularly, Telegram for the Big Daddy Biddle group, and Destination Linux. I use a lot of that stuff. I game on this machine quite frequently, like every day. I'm really good at setting up Steam and getting games to work on it. So I got a pretty decent game library.
Good.
So I game on it. I work on my MP3s on it. If I get a new record album or something like that, I'll play it through onto a laptop directly from the stereo into the audio input on a laptop. And Audacity will capture all that. And I transfer it to this machine and use Audacity to chop all the songs up into individual MP3s.
Absolutely.
So I do a lot of things like that. I don't use GIMP that much because it's kind of a little bit more than I need. Something downsized Pinta, I'll use to doctor something up in the graphics area. But
I can use GIMP like there's no tomorrow, but talk about that new drawing program that they put into Linux Mint 19. I can't figure that thing out.
other than that, I do a lot of distro testing. Lately, I'm kind of turned into a distro bipolar disease type thing. I went from Debian ever since it came out on 10, and just recently went right to Arch. So, you know, I can't really tell the difference, believe it or not, looking at the screens. The only way you really know, because I have Cinnamon on both of them. The Debian has an older Cinnamon, but it's still Cinnamon.
Yeah.
The only way I can really tell for sure is the updates. Yep. Every single day. Matter of fact, it wanted to update today, and it was got a bunch of stuff for System D, and I'm like, oh no, we're not doing System D if I need to be on Tom's stream tonight.
Good bet. Yeah, I'll update mine later on tonight, I think. So.
But that's what I use it for. I use it with two monitors. I got a 23-inch on one side and a 24-inch on the other side. The 23 is a 1020 by 1080. Yeah, 24 is a 1920 by 1200, which is a little taller and a little nicer to game on. Yeah. And on the left side, I put all the communication stuff like Discord or something like that, Telegram, and smaller items. I do all the gaming and web browsing and everything on the bigger screen.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
So that's my basic run through. Is someone wants me to look at a distro, fine, I take one of these. I got someone said on the message that Crucial was a good choice, and I tend to believe him.
I agree.
I got two Western Digitals as well, and a Samsung, all 1 terabyte.
Very cool.
Nice. Boo on Western Digital.
I have tons of these too.
Yeah, I generally use the Western Digitals personally, but
Oh God! Look at how much I have.
All those hard drives.
I have 5 1 terabyte drives.
You know what I got?
These.
I have a 72-in-1 card reader that I am pretty sure is false advertising.
Oh yeah, I have that thing too.
It's like 72-in-1. Give me like 8-in-1, no problem. 72-in-1. There's not 72 things I can cram in those holes.
Something that really disturbs me lately is you look at brand new cases; they don't even come with a DVD rack in them anymore.
Yeah.
The front's completely flat. There's not even space to put any additional stuff through the front.
Yeah, which is sad.
Well, you guys
hold on. So Cody OS is working cleaning crew in the hospital, so keep yourself safe, man. That would be scary. And 13 Tom G discovered the channel some days ago. Really like it. Last video was very funny. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming along, and welcome to the channel, my friend. Just wanted to give you a quick shout out. And Quint, I think it's your turn. What FOSS software do you use, and what do you do with it?
This is what I was about to say first. If you have a bunch of old hard drives, they make these little conversion kits that turn them into external hard drives for maybe $20 on Amazon. I think it's what I paid for this one. They're great. I have a 2 terabyte Seagate NAS drive in here.
Yeah, our Canadian economy isn't doing so well, so it would probably be double the price for me.
Yeah.
So back to my setup here. So I've been using Fedora since Fedora 26, so for a while now, and I'm pretty experienced with it. The computer I have here, I got maybe about 2 years ago. It was just a cheap computer off of eBay that I put in. It was a pretty good computer. It's a Lenovo ThinkStation, but it had only 4 gigs of RAM and stuff in it. It wasn't very good. It was like a 300 gig hard drive. But it had a 3.2 gigahertz processor, which is why I bought it.
Yep. And
then I put new parts in it. I have 20 gigs of RAM because I added 16 to the 4 that was already in there. And then I actually only have 1 hard drive. I have a Seagate, one of those Seagate I think that's what the Apple calls them, Fusion drives. It's like the combo ones.
That's actually not quite what it is.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like the combo.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's their hybrid. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. The Fusion drive is a bit more complex than that. Sorry.
Is it like the hybrid SSD hard drives?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
That's what I have. I have one of those hybrid
Yeah, those are kinda
drives.
crazy. So,
And
so
then I
what we're
have-
focused on this question is what
Yeah.
software do you use and what do you use it for? That's our question
sorry,
right now.
it's getting
So,
a little off topic,
yep,
but
yep, that's fine.
I use Fedora. I'm on Fedora 31 now. I have 2 web browsers on here. I use Firefox hardened down for pretty much everything. I use your hardening guide to harden it down.
Yeah.
And then I use Chromium for stuff like this, where I need to do like a video chat. I'll do Chromium. For my email, I use Gary. I know you don't like that email client, but it works fine for me.
Now, do you have the brand new one out? Which version is it? Is it 3.36? Is that what's on there right now?
Yeah, the GNOME.
Yeah, the Gary 3.36 just came out. Do you have that one? And how closely does it resemble Mac Mail?
I actually just updated the other day. Let me see. Show detail.
Yeah, that was a question we were looking at. I had a friend that was looking for a mail application that would stack stuff better than Thunderbird does, and it looked from the screenshots like it did. I wasn't sure if it did or not.
3.342 is what I have. 3.342 is what Gary is. And then I use OBS. So when I have to record something, I use Audacity, not super often. I use GIMP, not super often either, but I do have it, and it's really nice to use when you need it. I have Digicam for just editing like metadata and doing like photo touch-ups and things. I use Caden Live for video editing. I have Scribus installed in here because I do want to do a little bit of like publication type stuff just to play around with it, but I haven't used it yet. My preferred text editor is Atom. That's the text editor that I like, which is the one made by GitHub. And I use VirtualBox quite a bit. I have a couple games on Steam. And then I use Lollipop for music, and I use Kodi for when I want to watch more when I want to binge watch something, like I want to have more of a theater type environment. Where I can use the keyboard. I use Kodi, and then I use Rhythmbox for loading music onto iPods because Lollipop doesn't work with that.
Okay.
I rip pretty much all my music off of YouTube using YouTube DL. And then I have the LibreOffice suite on here. I don't use it very much because I do all my schoolwork on my Mac, so I don't really have to use it. And then I do have Discord. I have Skype and Zoom. And then that's pretty much it on the computer here. I have an open media vault. I have a server in the closet in front of me running a program called Zen Orchestra, which it's basically a front end for the Zen virtualization engine, and I can run different operating systems on top of it. And so it's basically like a virtual box, but the entire thing is VirtualBox. And so I have trying to think what do I have on it? I have an Open Media Vault server. I have the network, the controller from my Ubiquity network. I have a phone system that I mainly just use for testing. I have a phone back there. I don't know how well you can see it. There's a phone right there.
Yep.
And that is FreePBX, which is open source. And trying to think, I have a VPN server on there, which uses PyVPN. I don't have a Pi-hole, but I think I may add one soon. That's pretty much it for me.
Cool. Very good. And Pizza came on. Good to see you're still alive, Pizza.
Yeah, I was late because I had science homework. Well, science extra credit work, and I have a C+ in that class, so I want to get it
Go
out.
ahead and take it, man. Go ahead and get it. So our question that we're going through right now is what FOSS software do you use, and what do you use it for?
Does it have to be FOSS or are proprietary things allowed too?
We're doing FOSS, specifically
Okay.
FOSS software.
So...
And we'll shame you for every bit of proprietary. No, I'm kidding.
You lose
Start
points
shaming
for
Quentin.
proprietary, you gain points for FOSS.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the thing is, I use Linux because it works. I don't use Linux because it's open source. And so as much as I like Fedora, which is one of my favorite distros, I hate how they have kind of a FOSS only philosophy, and then trying to get stuff like NVIDIA drivers is difficult. So right now I'm on Arch, although I plan on transitioning to Fedora soon, so that I can work on Border OS without using a virtual machine, because I moved the base to Fedora. For my software, I'm using Arch with GNOME 3.36. Again, I'm going to switch to Fedora. I have Firefox as my main browser. I have pretty much every browser installed on here, just because I don't actually use any of them. I just use Firefox. I use Visual Studio Code, CodeEM, which is a fork of VS Code to remove Microsoft branding and telemetry and stuff. So I use that. I use GIMP for graphic design. So I use it to make my thumbnails and stuff. I use a lot of ICE applications. I use Google Docs and Google Drive and stuff for school, and I use there's this third-party Apple Music client called Meave Music, which is open source. Although Apple Music isn't open source, the client I'm using is, and that's running through ICE.
Cool.
And I also use GNOME boxes instead of VirtualBox.
Okay, very good. Awesome. Tech, you're up. Same question. Do you need it repeated?
No, I think I got it. I'm actually with you. I like Evolution Mail quite a lot. I know Faraday as dev is it's too old, 2003. It's looking for him. I love the fact
exactly
that it's
what you need for managing multiple emails without having them into separate email categories.
It is like 2003 Mac OS Mail. It's absolutely perfect. Dead simple.
Yep.
It's wonderful. Firefox, Chromium are my only two browsers, and Tor, and Steam. I use Steam, Discord, obviously. LibreOffice, that's pretty much it. That's all I need. I mean, I have my whole music library I had in MP3s always, just so I would never lose access to them. So whatever the default music player on Pop OS is, I forget what it is. That works perfectly fine for me. And
Probably
VLC
Rhythmbox.
for watching video.
Yeah. All right, very good. World Linux.
I got quite a few applications at least. So Mozilla Firefox, Mozilla Thunderbird. I use Inkscape for graphic design, which apparently I know it's vector, but it works pretty well for what I'm doing. I use Audacity a lot for doing audio editing, and although I do use, technically Apple's proprietary software Logic Pro X, I kind of use it both together for music purposes. So I use Audacity a lot. LMMS, which is like the multimedia to actually make music. I do use that just for experimenting because there are some different things that you can do with it that Logic Pro X can't even do. VLC, which is like one of the most popular media players ever. And Proton, which I do use to play Windows games on Linux, which is FOSS. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. So other than Steam, I don't really use GIMP that much. I did use some Kden Live, I guess from time to time, and some other software like that. LibreOffice is a big one if I want to do some editing without Microsoft Office, but I do have to use Microsoft Office because my college really needs it, which I kind of hate that, but I have to do it. But it's mostly the common applications that you would usually get on Linux, and I use it for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So that's usually my thing. So if I'm on Mac OS, I can still use the same application, and when I'm on Linux, I can use the same applications, and that's the biggest thing. Because if I only limit myself, especially if I'm going to college, which I literally can't, just go to Linux. That's going to cause a lot of problems, especially if there's some technically proprietary software that can do some things that free software can't really do. Mostly for college though. So that's kind of the only thing. The biggest thing is how colleges and universities and schools are too reliant on Microsoft and other proprietary technology. That's kind of the only limitations that I would find for that.
Yeah, a lot of that. All right. So I'm going to focus, let's see, video editing, like the channels and stuff, GIMP for thumbnails. For me, Kden Live is what I use, although I'm going to poke around with Olive when I can. I use Firefox, Chromium as web browsers, and WaterFox as web browsers still. I haven't dumped that one yet, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. And just a variety of things. Kodi, of course, is what I use for movies, music, things like that. VLC, of course, is good. Now, as writing, and I'm an author as well, I do my entire suite of not only writing books, but book publishing using FOSS software as well. So I do have a channel called Writing Done Right, and you can find writingdoneright.net. I'll drop that in the chat here, link in a few minutes. But there I use LibreOffice for writing and producing the typesetting in the books. I use GIMP for the cover design with occasional Krita if I need some drawing elements with Wacom tablets. I use Audacity for recording audiobooks and Kid 3 to tag the files properly for the audiobooks. And a few other little small terminal tools here and there for extracting, converting MP3 files. I can extract images out of PDF files and then get those guys in the perfect format I need to be posting on my various web pages. So, and Sigil is the open source application that I use for doing ebook publication. So, designing ebooks just using the free and open source application called Sigil. So, those are all tools that I do with real world applications, real world functionality. And I'll go ahead and put the website for the channel. You'll find all the links in the YouTube and stuff. Linked to that, but I do a lot of LibreOffice tutorials over there, and all that is done with FOSS software. All right, so second question. We're going to try and go a little quicker on this one because we're already running low on time. What was your first experience with FOSS software like? Was it an amazingly good experience, or did you want to beat your head against the wall? Dan, go ahead.
My first experience with FOSS software was I didn't know really what to get because when you first start out with Linux, you don't know what does what. You have to figure these things out by watching either many YouTube videos or doing a lot of reading.
Yep.
So my experience was kind of, a little all over the map. I knew Firefox and Thunderbird and stuff like that ran on Linux just fine. But, GIMP, yeah, I've heard of it, but I didn't know so much about it. So it was a learning curve. I'm running into software today. And if you got time, I got 2 honorable mentions to see if anybody's heard of them. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've ran across 2 pieces of software that are out there for Linux that few people don't know about because they're never talked about.
All right, what are they?
One of them is Rootkit Hunter.
Okay.
They say there is, just the was it KV Clam or something like that for antivirus for Linux.
Yeah.
Rootkit Hunter is another Linux virus type thing, and you get it from GitHub and you install it in your machine. It takes some getting used to. It does pull out some false flags. If it gives you a flag with a name, you should probably go research it because it's been tagged and given a name for a reason. And you may have it, so you'd really want to research that one. Another one that I heard Zebedee Boss on Telegram talk about just a little bit, but I didn't know it was out there, and I was having some trouble with my game stuttering too, is Farrell's Game Mode. And what you do is you actually install this, and then you load the game mode command into the command line to start your game. And what it does is it prevents the machine from doing certain clocked things when you're gaming, like turning on the screensaver or other low-level stuff in the background that's not really needed while you're gaming, to give the CPU less stutters in it when it's shifting your game through it. And the guys that do use it tell me it'll get you even extra frames per second on your gaming.
Absolutely. Very cool.
But these things you don't hear about unless you come across them by accident.
Yeah,
I think JD Ware came up with he's got a video on using the rootkit hunter.
Yeah, very cool. Pizza, on to you, and I think you were out when I said it. So what was your first experience with FOSS software like? Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? And we're trying to go very quick because we're running out of time. And you're muted, by the way.
I did hear it. My first experience with FOSS was when I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10. Like 3 months after getting my computer, I got bored of Windows 10 because Windows 10 sucks.
And then switched to Arch right then.
And then
anyway,
or wait, no, it wasn't Windows 10. It was Windows 8. Same difference. So I just opened up a VirtualBox one time, and I just went into I downloaded VirtualBox because I was like, oh, cool, I could run any operating system I want. Well, I didn't understand like ISOs and things, so I just went into VirtualBox, selected the operating system, gave it RAM and storage, and I was like, what? Why isn't it installed? What? And then I didn't watch any tutorials or anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that was that. Later, I got curious again, and I downloaded Ubuntu. It was right before 14.04, so I think it was like 13.10 or 12.04, depending on what I downloaded. I can't remember. So I tried it out, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then I found like Wubby installer, which allowed me to install Ubuntu on just by running an exe file. So I used that. And then I later, when the Windows 10, I dual booted Ubuntu 14.04, or actually, yeah, I dual booted Ubuntu 14.04 and Windows 8.1. Well, eventually, Windows 10's technical preview came out, and I tri-booted the Windows 10 technical preview, Windows 8, and Ubuntu 14.04.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit, I think I used the Windows 10 technical preview the most out of those three, and it was not a good experience. It was so buggy, but whatever. And it still hasn't been fixed, Windows 10. But yeah,
it just keeps on breaking.
Eventually, I stopped the tri-boot. I actually switched back to Windows for a while, and I tried to start a gaming YouTube channel. That failed. Then I turned into a Linux channel. That's pretty good. So yeah.
There you go. All right. Quint, what was your first experience like?
My first was probably when I was I guess my first experience from a long time ago was when I had Firefox on my computer when I was really little, but I don't know if that counts that much. My first experience of knowing that it was open source was when in middle school and our art teacher taught us how to use GIMP.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved GIMP. I thought it was great. And I was like, why would you buy Photoshop if you can get all this for free?
Yeah. Now, depending on which version, I tried GIMP when it was brand new, and it was buggy as all get out and would constantly crash.
2.8 is what was the release then.
Yeah, and that one's good and stable. I think I've used GIMP back maybe before 1.
Yeah, I tried that. I used that, and then I started using VirtualBox because I wanted to run other operating systems on my MacBook Air, which that was kind of a disaster because the only computer I had then was a MacBook Air with 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to run other operating systems on that. That was a disaster. I don't want to talk about that. Then I decided to get into Linux, and I used the first time I used Linux was on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
And then I moved on and started using desktop Linux. Cool. And then I got to where I am now.
Very good. Awesome. Tech, you're up.
I don't recall explicitly my first instance, but I want to say it was like a mid-2000s Ubuntu version. I remember it had GNOME too, and I thought the footprint icon stuff was really goofy, but nowadays I love that, and I wish it was still around. But I remember getting really into it when I was studying in college, and we had SUSE Linux. And that was what we went through in my college courses was SUSE Enterprise Linux, and that was a lot of fun. And OpenSUSE became what I used for a short bit, but before I got kind of moved into the Windows and Mac ecosystem because of where I was in work. So I've been out of Linux for like a long time, until like the last like year-ish or so.
Very good. Cool. And World of Linux, what was your first experience like?
Oh, that was way back over a decade ago. I think even more. But the very first time I really used Linux was because my dad literally introduced me to Linux at a very young age. So I was like 8 or something like that, very young. And I tried Kubuntu 8.04, which means that it was before Windows 7 actually came out. And this was my very first experience with the KDE desktop environment at that time, radically different than what it is today. But then that's where I really started to experiment with all of the FOSS software that was available, like Conqueror back then. And then there was pre-installed software on it. And I started to try and stuff. So yeah, that was my very first experience. But because of that, then I knew what Linux was. So then a few years later, then I tried Ubuntu for myself, and then I just started to research a little bit more about what Linux was, installing new software, just checking it out. And then I just continued doing that for many years, and that's how I was able to get very good at some like Kden Live. I didn't know anything about it, but now I'm pretty good at it, and it's been like years ago since I started actually using it. So it's been like a long decade to get me from the start to where I am today, actually using all those software and stuff.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So then my first, I mean, outside of the, I actually was an early user of Thunderbird as well, back in like version 1 or 2. That's what I used when I was a graduate student at Penn State. Of course, we used Firefox, and those were the things they recommended then at the time. And so, didn't really recognize they were open source necessarily, just that they were alternatives to the other junky stuff that we had as things. It was Thunderbird or it was Outlook Express, and definitely Thunderbird would be the better. But then we moved on, and when I was doing the academic software sales, I had this really low-end, crappy, it wasn't Compaq, I forget exactly which computer brand it was, but it was built incorrectly in where they literally mounted the hard drive to the frame of this laptop. And if you just slide the laptop across, it'd send all of the jolt of the slide right into the hard drive. That thing went through hard drives like there's no tomorrow. So one day I'm just like, can you boot Windows on an external hard drive? Well, at that time you couldn't because Windows 10 wasn't out yet, but you can. But I was like, but I stumbled upon this thing called Ubuntu, and I'm like, well, okay, let's do that because at least I can put a hard drive in a case here. And that was like Ubuntu 11.04 maybe. And that was really the first experience on Linux. I was like, this is really cool. It actually works. It does everything I need it to do. It's kind of neat. And, that was the first experience using that. And really for me, it was not hard at all. The only hard one is I did use GIMP very, very early on, like version 1 something, and it was buggy as all get out. Still worked. It was really good that you could get all the Photoshop features without having to pay all the money for Photoshop. That was really the first experience, which wasn't the greatest, but I was willing to give it a try. And now, I mean, I use it for everything. And so, that's kind of that. So we have Paul Mann is using Mint laptops for everything now, currently learning how to automate LibreOffice Calc using VBA. Very good. Very good. That's awesome stuff. And let's see. There's some discussion and fighting between Tech and Peter about hard drives versus SSDs. Hey, I use hard drives. I find SSDs not to be necessarily as stable as they could be.
I just want to say
SSDs
though,
are good.
I
beg to differ.
Hold
Some
on.
are better than others.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
All right,
my Western Digital.
hold on. Pizza, what's up?
If you're using Windows, you have to have an SSD or else it's going to run terribly. But if you're running Linux, a hard drive's fine.
Yeah, it's going to be dog slow.
Yeah. Dan,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I find the Western Digital Blue Heart SSDs they got just don't seem to perform as well as the Crucials and the Samsung. The Samsung's king.
Looks the
It's
same as it does on Ubuntu
because
18.04 from the looks of the flat pack. Okay, I'll have a look at it. Well, if it's
Yeah.
it depends on what it is. I'll have a look at it though.
Mm.
I actually downloaded it while we were talking. I actually downloaded it on Arch here, so I'll.
So,
Okay.
anyways, this was the old hard drive before I replaced it to an SSD, my old iMac. So I had to literally take a heat gun and everything and literally go inside and replace it with an SSD. This thing is slow. Like, it has Mac OS on it, of course. All my data is still there. It's slow.
Laptop hard drives are among the worst. I
Yeah.
think top speed on those is like 5,200 RPMs.
Yeah.
And discs,
Um,
the discs on them are so shrunk down.
I have to slap down Farron OS here. Come on, Thunderbird and Evolution suffer from 2003 Outlook style syndrome, and there is nothing wrong with 2003 Outlook style syndrome. What
Like I
I
said,
hate,
dead simple.
I hate the modern way email applications are going. It is excessively time consuming for how a large email group system needs to run.
Yeah.
It takes too much time.
I prefer the 2003 Outlook style if you have multiple emails, but if you only have
Correct.
one email like
Yep.
me, then the modern emails are better.
Correct.
So
That's absolutely
why I
correct.
use,
Yep.
That's why I
Yeah.
use Geary. But if I also had to run if I was running a business and I had a business email with my personal email, then I definitely use Evolution.
I
But
have no idea how many email addresses I have. I don't even know.
But I do give credit to GNOME for maintaining both Geary and Evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just use Geary because it looks like Apple Mail, and that's what my first email client was.
Yeah, that's a valid reason to use it. You know, sometimes the look is really what you want. So the good news here, if you're listening about this fight about how email should work, here's the awesome thing about FOSS and Linux. If you like that 2003 Outlook style, which is exactly what I need, we got it. If you love the modern Mac OS mail, you got it. You want something in between, you got it. And that's the cool thing. So we only have I want to try and wrap this up within a few more minutes. So what I am going to do here though is I want to get one more good question in here. And we want to go kind of speed round. Let's see. Can we do this speed round or do I just want to mention it? I think I'll just go ahead and talk on this point here. Just because I think it's just easier to do that. But you guys can, we'll pass it to you guys for some thoughts on that. So when you're getting used to it, you don't have to just drop your whole system and just wipe everything out and switch right on over to Linux. You're going to get frustrated. So like I said at the beginning, somebody just handed me this Mac here. So I'm put Sierra on it. And since I'm just going to be using it for testing websites and a few other little odds and ends, then what I have done with it is I'm not buying any applications. I've installed GIMP so I can do any of that. I've installed LibreOffice. I put Firefox and I had to put Chrome on it because unfortunately I will have to see how websites look like in Chrome on a Mac. I actually already use iBooks for testing my ebooks because it's really good for that. And I did not install it yet, but I'll probably install Bluefish Editor on this as well. Or Blue Griffin, whichever one I can get running. So the best thing you can do, particularly if you're stuck in home all day these days, while you're binge watching other shows, you can still binge watch.
Or
but
play CSGO.
No, don't do that because that's too intensive. You can binge watch your shows and still experiment with FOSS software. See, if you're playing CSGO, you can't experiment with FOSS software.
Well,
at the
if
same
I
time.
die in a competitive game, I can.
Okay, well, there you go. But what you do is stop saying, can I run X program on Linux? Say, what do I need this program for? And then look for the FOSS alternative. Most of those FOSS alternatives are going to have a version for your Windows or for your Mac. You can install them and start working on those systems and learn how to do it. Then if you need to jump ship, maybe your computer goes bad, you got to get a new one. It's like, why don't I just get something easy and install Linux on it? Now you already know how your software works.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the argument I'm making. Let's go reverse order this time. So World of Linux and then back down to Dan. Your thoughts, anything to add to that sentiment on testing the software? Go ahead.
So really, for most of my parts, so although that for a long time and that decade that I've been kind of slowly switching to Linux even more, I always used Audacity way back then on Windows, and that's what I really started in order to actually get some audio editing. But I didn't even know at that time that it was FOSS software. I just used it because it was free and I needed something or to edit audio and stuff. But then I started to just look at other software that was already available. So even though I knew what Linux was, I was still on the Windows platform, but still I was able to get all those applications like Audacity, and then Caden Live actually has a version for Windows, although it's on beta, and there's a
It's
bunch
terrible.
of different software. Yeah, it works, but it's not the best thing. But anyways, all that software, even though I was on Windows, I was able to get it because at that time, well, I couldn't pay for anything, right? So I had to get free software, right? So that's why I was able to discover it in the first place.
Yeah, there you go. Tech.
Sorry, I was in the chat. So I was not
That's
paying
fine.
attention.
That's cool.
Lightning
That's cool.
round, Skip.
All right. Lightning round. All right. So what we're doing is, do we have anything else to add on how to just how to get started?
VirtualBox, run an OS. Like I would say take a Linux OS for a specific project you want to try to do. See if you can get that working. I'm not somebody who does well with kind of unguided stuff, so you can't just like throw an OS on VirtualBox and be like, oh, I'm gonna play around with it, because I start doing the same things over and over, and they all start looking and feeling the same to me. So I say do it for a project, like I did Fedora server for my Nextcloud. So that's how I say get started.
There you go. All right. Quint.
So I'm trying. I wasn't really listening. Sorry.
They're all it's not listening. Just any final tips on getting started with open source software?
Just try to use virtual machines. That's my best. That's the best way of getting started with it, and then eventually go buy yourself a second laptop, or if you really want to, install it on your main system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my tip.
All right. Pizza.
I'm gonna be honest. When I decided to switch back to Linux from Windows, I already knew Linux, so I decided to go for Ubuntu Server. I hadn't used Linux for like a year and a half. I just installed Ubuntu Server and installed KDE over it, and that was it. I didn't really do any transition or anything. I just installed it, and that was it.
Okay. So there you go. Dan.
Well, I like put Linux on one of these, stick it in the machine, and take a look at this stuff. It's about that simple. Like I said, I mentioned 2 pieces of software I just recently stumbled across. I just read about them, installed them, and played with them.
There you go. All right. So why will developers not focus on a specific distribution? What do you mean? I don't know what.
I think he's wondering why developers develop for all distributions and don't focus on just one.
Oh, okay. Can you speak to that, Pizza?
No, because I disagree with that. I think developers should target all distros. Even just
trying
making
to
a
largest market share.
exactly.
Yeah, kind of a little bit difficult because I'm learning C++ and different languages, and even with Linux, it's actually quite hard depending on what you do. Like if you make a simple program, you're able to do it on each Linux distribution, but if you're using a specific library that no other library can do, that's where you're starting to get limited on what you can actually develop on.
Just do a Flatpak or an app image, or not a snap.
That's the best way.
That's right. No snaps.
Yeah, you don't have to package. A lot of companies who build proprietary software for Linux, they just package a .dev file and that's it. They don't do a snap or a Flatpak or an RPM.
Yeah.
And then it makes it annoying to install on other distros because then you have to bust out Alien and convert it to an RPM or whatever.
Yeah.
It's annoying. Like if I want to install deb package on Arch, or not a deb, an RPM, to install an RPM package, first I have to convert it to a dev file using Alien on a different system, and then use I think it's called ArchDeb or something in order to install the deb package on Arch.
Yeah, a little problematic. So
You know,
that's
you
why
would-
you might have printer issues, except I know many of those printers will have the drivers in the IUR already. All right, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah.
You would think, okay, that they would develop a compiler where you have your source program. The compiler would compile it and then spit out a flat pack, a snap, an app image, an RPM, a deb. You get all variants of this out right from the output, and there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be awesome though, but it doesn't work like that apparently.
Well, yeah,
Check-
because the money is not there up front to do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
check out OBS, not OBS Studio, Open Build Services from OpenSUSE. It does something similar to that. You could generate a
Okay.
deb, RPM,
Oh.
and I think app images too.
Nice. I think of the three though, app images is like of the three Snap Flatpak app images. I think app images are the better of all of them.
Yeah.
Personally,
I think Flatpaks are, but I think we could definitely live without snaps and Flatpaks, whereas app images we couldn't, because
Yeah.
instead of a snap or Flatpak, you could just use your package manager. But
Mhm.
but there isn't a replacement for any portable formats that you can
yeah.
just have
I
in one
think-
file.
I think it was Chris Ware's channel. I think he did one recently on how he's running. I think he said he's using Linux Mint, but nearly every critical application he's running is all app images. And he just has a neat way of distributing and maintaining them, which works really well.
I
think it
don't
was
like
Chris
app
Ware's.
images. I don't like app images.
I
'cause
haven't
they
had good luck
break
with
the
them.
system.
Mm-hmm.
I only use them if I'm trying to get an older version of something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually going to try out Olive as an app image because I can download it and test it on this main machine without installing it, because I don't like to install extra things on my production machine. I just don't want to do that. Honestly.
Well, yeah, once you
Because-
install it, it's hard to completely uninstall it.
Yeah. But with an app image, I can actually install it, and all the video editor is done with that. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this guy up. So give us your final thoughts, everybody, and that way we can hang out off camera for these guys with a little bit. So, Dan, give me your final thoughts.
Final thoughts, Linux is great. Does everything I need. I'm very
All right.
happy.
Pizza, final thoughts.
I like Linux.
There you go. All right.
Also, I have to go now. I'm not feeling good. Bye.
All right, later. Don't get the virus. See you,
The
Pizza.
Rona.
Yeah. All right, Quint.
Use as much open source as you can.
There you go. That's right. Tech.
I'm with Quint. Use as much open source as you can. As I've said in the past, don't let corporate tribalism enter into your mindset. Just use what works for you.
Yep.
And if you
absolutely.
like it, donate to the cause too.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Help these guys out. World.
Yeah. So I'm in the Unix philosophy, but I do like Linux a lot, and I use lots of open source software
Mhm.
in order to do it. But usually I'm kind of in the Unix way of thinking, I guess. So, not just entirely on Linux, I also use Unix-based applications that are not entirely on Linux. So it's mostly multi-platform stuff. As long that it's open source, it doesn't really care which platform that you use, but where it actually becomes important is when you're sick and tired of Windows constantly updating and screwing stuff up.
Breaking.
And
Yeah.
that's where you're probably going to go to Linux, right?
Yep. And then you
This
can
is-
have Arch screw everything up.
Yeah, this is what's giving me the shakes about Arch. Every single day it wants to put in at least 8 items.
See, this is why I like your Debian-based stuff for production. This is why I stay on Debian-based systems for my production systems.
Yeah, I
Debian's a
don't-
little different now. You can run Debian for 3 weeks, and when you finally get that update symbol down at the bottom, you get all excited. What is it going to give me?
Hooray!
That's
I get
right.
updates that are 6 months old.
Yeah, Arch is like taking a constant drug. Is it gonna crash? Is it gonna crash? Is it gonna crash?
I know at least on mine, I get an update notification every time I log into this computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how Arch is. There's probably going to be updates it wants to do before I shut the thing down tonight, too. All right. My final thought, of course, like these guys said, just open source where you can, just because it's going to give you some control and some power back in your life. Use, of course, the operating systems. You can test out a lot of these applications without swapping OSs right away. And then once you already know all the FOSS software, you're like, oh, I can just go ahead and swap because that's all it takes. Also, I will be streaming on my other channel tonight with everybody stuck inside and churches canceled all around the world. I'm talking today about digital church pros and cons. That's on my other channel this evening, 9 o'clock, which is just about 52 minutes from now. I dropped the link there in the chat. So if you guys want to come on over to my other channel and watch my discussion on that, go ahead and follow along with there. So with that, thanks for hanging out, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow for the news.
Where Tom sets himself on fire.
Fire! Boss for life!